Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening. Today we're going to have a space where we briefly address several topics. Um, Me and my colleague Wani and Nikki were discussing what will Africa do now that we're delineating. This shit is real. We've made up our mind. I'm proud of y'all. We've decided who we are, and we're standing by our identity. We're proud of our identity. See, the game has been for the last 400 years to make us ashamed of who we were and have us looking for some other identity outside of ourselves when the power was always inward. We just didn't understand why. And this isn't some revelation coming from me or one singular person. It's a collaborative effort from Dr. Francis Cress Welsing, the late Dr. Welsing, the late Neely Fuller, who just passed recently, um, Professor James Smalls, so many people, Dr. Shahrazad Ali, we collectively has figured out that wait a minute, they don't want us to know who we are because we're powerful. Well, the question will become, what will Africa do when we finally delineate? What is Africa going to do when we cut that cord and go our own way, like the song used to say? Well, I'm going to say this. Bobby Hemmett, one of my favorite scholars who doesn't get enough credit. There needs to be a Bobby Hemmett museum, but anyway. Bobby Hemmett said, "You'll know the end when you know the beginning." I love that because it's so true. Ladies and gentlemen, life is not linear. As a historian, as a licensed historian, they teach us timelines. That's bullshit. That's European ideology. Nothing's a straight line in this universe. Everything's a circle. You see, when you're born, you're helpless and you need help, and you get to the second stage of life, and you're empowered and strong. And guess what? Before you die, guess where you get back to? You get back to a point where you're kind of helpless and you need help. It's a circle of life. Duh. Well, what are you talking about, Professor? What I'm talking about is Africa. If we look back to Africa, Africa betrayed, and I'm saying West Africa, let me be specific. West Africa betrayed foundational Black Americans by selling us to the European for quick wealth. According to Dr. Claude Anderson, the self-destructive attitude, quote, the self-destructive attitudes of tribal chiefs have yet to be fully explained or understood. He says, white traders took advantage of tribal chiefs' generosities. This self destructive tribalism, self enslavement, and lack of concern for wealth were interpreted by Europeans as signs of inferiority. They believed that these uncivilized, childlike heathens neither appreciated nor deserved their God given wealth. Consequently, whites rationalized it was their moral duty to take and utilize Africa's wealth and uh, put blacks to productive work as slaves. So the context in there is the Africans sold us off to get some quick clout, like our brother Tariq Nasheed when he's talking about Musa Kita, to ball out, to show off. You know what I'm saying? That shit cost them dearly. Well, the circle is they were balling and they sold us. Now, when we delineate from them, they're going back to square one and they're going to be stuck with that European. How do y'all think that's going to end? Ladies and gentlemen, um, Africa is depending upon the generosity of foundational Black Americans and the exploitation of the U.S. government. Wani, what were you saying about the Doge? The Doge Commission kind of shed light on this, didn't it?
You mean with the U.S. aid?
Yeah, the aid from the U.S. Yes.
Yeah, if we give them the most aid of any country, and Black Americans give the most charity of any American. So yeah, they're definitely reliant on that of those charity handouts. I don't know what they're going to do, but I do know that they don't understand that they're asking for help every day. on every topic. They asked for help with FGM, they asked for help with honor killings. All of these things have been addressed by the US government, even human sacrifice. Unbelievably, we've had to address human sacrifice in our government with respect to people moving over here. They have all kinds of advocacy for female genital mutilation, but those women are doing that to themselves. They're doing it. Their mothers are doing it to them. So we're fighting them and they want to do it. So I'm not sure who's going to advocate for them because I literally watched the support drain because I remember in the when they were being beaten up in China during COVID and everybody was like, "Oh my God, what's happening? You know, they're beating these Africans up." Well, the support for them from us is completely different than it was back then. I've watched the support leave and I've watched them make comments and attack Beyonce when she tried to help. And they had an article saying, "Who told Beyonce we needed charity?" And all those types of comments that they're allowing people to say those things. And then she goes over there and tries to do Afro beats and gets told, "You're never going to be Mama Africa. You can't represent us." So we have heard and seen them loud and clear, and there was no pushback. So it must be something they agreed to because we're not seeing a lot of pushback from other Africans. In fact, we're seeing them writing articles. Some guy in Zimbabwe writing an article about how we're the worst blacks on the planet.
Wow.
I'm like, nobody knows you. People don't even know where your country is located. Who are you? Nobody. Some African that got out of there and got an education and decided to focus on Black Americans. So people are getting the message loud and clear. I don't think we're going to have to convince people about delineation, but because their whole lifestyle is built on leaning on us, and they don't even realize it because they're leaning on us all the time. They don't realize that we're a big wall that they've been leaning up against. Everything about this country was created by us. So they wouldn't have any uh, ability to live in any neighborhood. They wouldn't have any scholarships. Nobody would be thinking about them. They wouldn't even be here. They didn't even want people of African descent to immigrate here. We are the buffer standing between the whole world turning its back on them, and they don't realize that. If we say nope, don't help them, I don't care if they get deported, you see how bad these people look. Getting deported and knowing black people are not going to raise a hand to help them. They know they don't have anyone to reach out to. Who are they going to reach out to if they're being deported from the United States of America? Who are they going to reach out to? Nobody. And who are they going to expect to advocate for them if bombs are dropping on their heads? They wouldn't even dare to ask their countries to help. And who are they going to advocate? Who are they going to get to advocate for them if it's not us? We're giving everybody the green light to ignore them. And they better recognize that before it's too late.
Yeah, Wani, you said something real powerful that I interpreted. We are. Would you say that we've been basically? I'm paraphrasing you, but we're shielding the viciousness of the world. It's so unfair to us FBAs. We've been kind of shielding them from the viciousness of the world. I'm gonna go so far as to say we've been vouching for them. We are their credibility. Their credibility, right? When we
Yes.
step out the way, when we finally as a group, as one swoop veil swoop movement, step out the way and let them face the fucking world. The world's gonna see them for who they are. Look in the jumbotron. There's a whole goddamn temple that's a museum now that's painted with human blood. They painted this motherfucker with so much blood that the top is rusted. You know, blood has iron in it. It's fucking rusted. That's how many people they wasted to paint the goddamn building. The world's gonna see that. And how do you think the world's gonna treat them?
See, we put all of those celebrities out there for a long time. Beautiful opera singers, beautiful ballet dancers, people like Josephine Baker. Louis Armstrong, Michael Jackson, Michael Jordan. These people have been international superstars and they've gone all over the world. I mean, there's tons more, but I can't name them all. They've gone all over the world. And so they're riding on that credibility based on, oh, you like Black American music, don't you? Well, then you like Africans. So don't treat us bad when we come here. That's the only thing standing in the way. If we say, no, we don't like Africans, they're a problem for us here, they challenge us, they get in the way, they try to get rid of Black History Month. If we say that, the European is going to keep on doing what they're doing, which is not letting them in the clubs, discriminating against them. They don't want them in the clubs. They get all dressed up, go to the clubs, and Black people are already up in the club and they can't even get past the door. They have to pretend to be Black American to get in the club to begin with. So if we make that statement that we're not interested in whatever happens to them, they all have countries, they have UN seats, and they better learn how to use them because they have never used them for us. They used the seats they use for Arabs, Arab outreach. Okay, so that's that on that. They already have a tough time over in Europe and they're not going to be able to ride in on, oh, I'm just like Michael Jordan, I'm just like Michael Jackson, I'm just like they're not going to be able to do that anymore because we're going to pull their panties down and everybody's going to see who they are and they're going to find out that hey, they went over to America, showed their entire ass, acted an entire fool, wrote articles about how good they were doing, and they're really just a bunch of bums laying in the street, just like they are over in Italy, just like they are everywhere in the world. Why would they come to America and all be stellar when they're not doing that anywhere? The
Right.
only reason they have the ability to even do anything is because of the foundation that we've laid for Black people, and they're fitting right into that groove that they don't belong in. They don't have a Black card. They don't have a woman's rights card. They need to go get those things on their own and stop trying to put a template of our work on top of their backwardness.
Yeah, we're like Wani said, we're pulling the shade back so people can see what's really going on. And foundational Black Americans, I'm still in the process of trying to understand us. I know we have a good heart, but I wonder if some of this trying to protect people who mean us no good. I can often wonder, does that is that rooted in that transatlantic slave trade? Maybe we feel like we're supposed to help people before we help ourselves. I don't know. The jury's still out on that. I'm doing research on that right now. But what we're discovering about a lot of diasporic Africans is that they are using warfare on us. Let's look at Robert Greene's um, rule of warfare number one. His first rule says it's called the polarity strategy. When I read this, I thought about Africans. It says keys to warfare. Many use friendship as a way to mask aggressive desires. They come close to you to do more harm, more harm. Or without actually being friends, they offer assistance and alliance. They may seem supportive, but in the end, they're advancing their own interests at your expense. They are those who master moral warfare. So basically, that's what's been happening with these Africans in my world in academia. I've seen them come to historically black colleges and take over our fucking legacy institutions, and then turn around and gatekeep them. This behavior is no longer acceptable, ladies and gentlemen. We need to take back our institutions and preserve them for our children. These institutions, whether social fraternities and sororities or brick and mortar colleges, were created exclusively for the foundational Black American freedmen, and they need to function in that capacity. What's on your mind, Capone?
How you doing, Professor, Sister Wani, Sister Nikki, the greats in the room? I appreciate y'all scholarly time, but yeah, they are. And as crazy you mentioned, Robert Greene, the laws of war, the keys of war, because they use another key, is the deception through friendship. They don't try to outshine us, they don't try to outdo us, but once they get into a position to undermine us and get ahead, they will. And I land on that.
Yeah, cut your throat to do it. Hell yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's time out. The baby boomers are dying and retiring, and we are stepping millennials and Gen X. We're stepping in power, and we don't have that same ideology as the baby boomers. I'm gonna go so far as to say a lot of the baby boomers are traitors. They got their 30 pounds of silver, and they sold us out. Not this don't apply to everybody, but goddamn it, it applies to enough of them. This the tables are turning in this.
From what I'm seeing or hearing, they sound hostile toward people. Like there's a hostility. Oh, you guys don't want to work. Why shouldn't the Mexicans have all the
Oh
jobs?
yeah, 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 yeah. Right,
They're
right.
hateful or
Yep,
something.
yep. What they told me is you need to do. I did it. What's the problem with student loans? I had them and I paid them off.
Mhm.
Well, motherfucker, your student loans were $2,000. My student loans from what I'm saying. My student loans from fucking
Right.
grad school and law school cost more than a goddamn
fifty thousand
house.
dollars here. Yeah, $50,000 I had.
I'm I'm not
Please.
gonna tell y'all how much I have because I'm embarrassed.
A lot. Now, I wanted to mention some of the ways this is just a short thing because I know a lot of people on here make people feel bad about whether they're doing activism or they criticize other people's ways of doing it. So here are some ways that you can be an activist and nobody can say that you're not. So when I first came on Clubhouse, most of the people I was around were organizing rallies and protests. That's a way to be an activist, mobilize people, raise awareness, and prepare future generations. Um, is part of that. Is part of the kind of like a boots on the ground, we out here type of activism. But another way to be an activist is to run for office. Um, draft legislation, create and sign petitions, serve on boards, panels, think tanks, task forces, commissions, and advisory groups to influence decision making. So that's another way you can. You don't have to be in front of a capitol or anything like that to get the message out. You can run for office and do that type of thing. Another way is to boycott. Um, we have a lot of power with our purchases, and we kind of unorganized. And Arthur's getting some of those things together to direct us to things to boycott and disrespectful people. I think that's a really good way to do activism, help with that boycotting, disrespect, like the disrespectful customer service, them sending all the money back to their country, foreign only staff, and exploitative practices is something that really we shouldn't even be buying from those stores anyway. But I know some people don't have any options, but I've been boycotting them for decades. The last but not least, you can write books, scholarly journals, articles, and draft up calls to action when you see something happening. You can make social media posts to combat false narratives and strengthen the message. So there's four main ways that you can be an activist. And so if you're not doing one of those, does not mean you're not participating because we need all of them. And some people are better at things than others. Some people want to go outside and get arrested and stuff, and other people would rather just quietly write about it. All of these things are what our ancestors did. Harriet Tubman was a boots on the ground woman. She was running people on the Underground Railroad. She was a hospitality person, so when somebody's plantation got liberated, she provided hospitality. She was a nurse, she was a spy, she was everything, okay? She was a dynamo. The woman was supernatural. I don't know how she did it. But on the other side, Frederick Douglass had a newspaper and he wrote a lot of books about our issue to bring attention to it. He wrote articles, and he was very vocal. He was a very vocal advocate, and he had the attention to do it. He was getting noticed, so he was very effective. Both of those people are doing totally different things, but they're rock stars for advocacy, for abolition. And as you can see, those two things are very powerful. They work hand in hand together. So don't let anyone say that if you're not standing in front of a Capitol with a sign that you're not doing advocacy work. Just knowing about the information and letting people know what we're talking about is advocating for us. And that's just why I just wanted to point that out.
Yes, Ida B. Wells had her tactic of advocacy, utilizing her insiders to find out information, writing about it, and sharing it. So, being you mentioned spy, utilizing your network to let the people know what's going on. Foundational Black Americans, we're entering into a whole new epic of time, a whole new epic of attack. That I'm gonna have to kind of take a role in letting y'all know about. It's coming. This new epic is coming from technology. A really good. Speaking of advocacy, I want to advocate for to let y'all know of a vector of attack coming from technology and science. Notice that they keep our children out of science. They wholeheartedly just keep us out of science. I was a geeky kid, and I wanted to. Me and my dad used to watch Star Trek, and I used to, Dad, what is that? He's like, that's physics. He was in the Navy. He's intelligence. He knew about physics, and I would try to take. I went to a PWI high school, and I would try to take physics, and they would just go crazy. No, 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 no. You no, you're not. You probably won't like that class. And I would get grown and get an education and see the same patterns happen. They steer black children, black females as well, but particularly black males away from hard sciences. I wonder what that was about. I served a couple of years in the total force community as aerospace education officer, and I was a computer guy. That's really what I did, as opposed to and teach. I did both those things, and I start to get it. I was like, oh shit, that number one, that's where the money is in tech. And number two, most importantly, it's my opinion that AI is going to be used to try to program, and they're going to use AI as a form of like MK Ultra on our kids. Call me fucking crazy. If y'all want somebody to support me on this, look up a guy named, what's the doctor's name? It's a white surgeon who got in trouble. He lives in El Salvador right now. God dang it, what's his name? When I think of it, I'm gonna bring it up. But here's a Jack. His first name's Jack. I'm gonna look it up. But it's a surgeon that kind of proved what I said from a medical standpoint. These AI systems, which are being pushed on our children, are taking away our children's ability to think. Children love it because they can write term papers and shit just by they can do all kind of stuff with AI. But what's gonna happen when they need to use in a crisis, when they need to use that high functionality of their mind? Educators call it metacognition, to the ability to think about the way you're thinking, to make critical corrections on the spot. They're not going to be able to do that because they're relying on a goddamn computer to do it for them. And ladies and gentlemen, that's the goddamn plan. In
Is it
short,
Jack
go ahead.
Cruz?
Jack Cruz, that's him. That's him. Jack Cruz. Guys, get on YouTube and look up Jack Cruz's shit. It'll blow your goddamn mind. Jack, he got to be in his 70s now, but Jack got lost his medical license for talking about this. Talking about advocacy. Effective advocacy comes from you finding something you know about and you teaching and helping your people through what you know, not what you think. I know about history. I know about education. I know a little bit about law. So that's where I stay in my lane. Jack knows about medicine, but it's all tied in together because I told you AI is being used to take over our mind. What Jack said, He said this has been a long term plan of the system of white supremacy because human beings were designed to be out in the sun. Certain wavelengths of light heal you. They heal cancers. We're never told that. And Jack says the plan of the system was to get your ass in front of a computer screen out of the sun in front of these goddamn incandescent light. As a school teacher and a professor for years, I couldn't prove it because I'm not a biologist, but I felt like those lights, those lights that be in hospitals and schools, what are they called? The tube lights. It's a word for them, incandescent lights or whatever. I always turn the motherfuckers off, and I bring like little lamps and shit, like the theater, to make my
This
room
is
color
fluorescent.
fluorescent. That's it. I'm not a biologist. I don't know shit about biology, but I just kind of felt like that shit would drain my energy. In my lectures, I just dim the lights and I bring my little lamps and stuff. I light it and I have my screen or my board lit that I'm teaching from, but I just keep it dim. But I've always felt like those lights suck the life out of me. And by God, Dr. Jack Cruz confirmed it. He said that wavelength of light is blue. Now, different spectrums of light. Ladies and gentlemen, everybody sitting in this fucking in this on this X panel, every last one of us is made out of light. We eat light. I can prove it to you in 20 seconds. You eat fruit, right? Or you eat meat. Meat eats grass. Where's grass come from? Grass comes from the sunlight. You're eating light. You're made out of light. And Jack says you need different colors of light, red spectrum, ultraviolet, to like feed through your skin like a plant. Right? And he said that the spectrum of light that they feed you in these buildings, in these courthouses, in these hospitals, in these goddamn classrooms, that fluorescent light is on the spectrum level of blue. And he said blue destroys your ability to think and turns you into a mindless goddamn zombie. This shit is deep. This is MK Ultra. We're sitting here looking at a screen right now being MK Ultrafied. Think about it. When was the last time you seen a computer screen that had a red tint or a purple tint? You never seen one. They all got a bluish tint. Cause
I had to use that app to block out the blue.
see,
I mean, block out the yeah, the blue blocker.
Really? Wow.
see,
Yeah, I've been having it because it also disrupts your sleep. And this other place I went to, they had red glasses for sale, so they would put those on to help you sleep. And yeah, the the computer is damaging. Yeah.
and think about everyday life. It's geared. They keep you out from away from the sun. And I'm not gonna say the motherfucker's name, but he was a big computer guy working on the street. He trying to block out the sun. I look up in the sky and see planes leaving smoke trails in front of the sun. I got it on tape. You know what I'm saying? And I used to be around airplanes a lot. A condensation trail don't last for a second because it's steam. Whatever those planes are leaving is lingering in this fucking sky. What is that? Steam don't stick around. But anyway, I digress. So back to the point at hand. What will Africa do when FBAs delineate? I think once we totally delineate and the politics catch up with us, which won't take long, I think certain parts of Africa are just gonna fucking collapse. I think so because they're being propped up. We saw through the Doge Commission, and I know it's funny, but I'm not trying to be facetious. I'm being honest. Like all those fucking million, our reparations are going to West Africa, ladies and gentlemen. Like you know, once that money dries up, these places are going to collapse. These a lot of these what do you call them? The Africa and I be honest with y'all, I don't really feel comfortable saying Africa. I was doing a little reading and read up that is it really called Africa? Is that the name of a what was it? Serpio
No.
Africanus? I don't even know what that homeland is called. Like, you got these
They
people.
just let everyone name them like Hindustan. Why did Indians allow the European to call them Indians in India?
Wow.
Like why? Why isn't it called Hindustan like Pakistan? I mean, they just let themselves get named and they don't push back.
That's wild, Ronnie.
Animals
Well, Sister
animals
Wani, I
allow themselves
believe
to
that
get
they.
named.
Oh, go ahead,
A-
Sister
a-
Nikki.
a- Animals allow themselves to get named, not people.
Right.
Right. And we're like breaking so much ground because we've chosen our own goddamn name. And I'm not a biblical scholar, but if you look at academic canon of the Bible, the real power that Adam had was the ability to name. Ladies and gentlemen, don't miss that. The ability to name is the ability to define your fucking reality. Reality is defined with words. God created the universe by saying, uttering some words. Words create reality. And you meaning to tell me you're not going to name yourself? You're not creating your own reality. Therefore, you're living in somebody else's goddamn reality. It's time for us to live in our own reality. Dr. Sharshi McIntyre identified Europeans as coming from that young Dryas said Ice Age is vicious, malnourished, and living in a nightmare because they're. And I'm not wearing a cape or playing a violin, but the European came. His ethnogenesis was during a vicious time where it's fucking cold and starving. There was cannibalism going on. The most vicious, murderous motherfucker was like the most virtuous, right? Dr. Sharshi McIntyre said that the European in his unconscious mind has just nightmares of murder, bloody murder. And Sharshi said when she was living, she said she was sitting on the couch flipping through the channels and everything was about murder. She said it was ID Discovery that somebody murdered somebody. Then she turned it on. It was a alien killing people, ripping them to shreds. She turned the next channel. It's Jason running down the street, stabbing people with a knife. She turned on the next channel. It was somebody going to jail for murder. And she said, God damn it, what am I watching? It's dawned on her she was watching a European nightmare. We're living in that reality. And guess what, ladies and gentlemen? That reality don't apply to us. That's not our experience. That's not our ethnogenesis. Let's define our own reality. Starts with words. What were we saying,
I
Capone? Oh, go ahead, one.
can get composed.
Oh no, I was saying they probably pulled the Christopher Columbus method, and when they went over to India, like, oh, we found Indians. That's how they named them India, and kept going with that.
Indians, West Indians, Black Indians, Indian Indians. How many people
Right.
are Indians to them?
Everybody was Indians outside of Europe around that time.
Right. Anybody who was not of African descent or wasn't white, they were, or maybe because some of them had straight hair, they call them Indians. I mean, what is that? It doesn't make any sense.
Well, you cannot, figure these people out. That's just like trying to figure out women's emotions. So we're dealing with people we don't understand, and we're dealing with people we cannot compromise. So they just decide to control, rape, and pillage and name shit as they seem fit.
Yeah, yeah, and we following these motherfuckers around. We're allowing them to teach about Columbus in schools to our children. One of my students said she was surprised when she read my book. She was like, "What the hell?" She's like, "I learned in elementary school that Columbus was a hero. That motherfucker dropped off a whole platoon of men in what is now Haiti to go around raping children, and they teaching about this son of a bitch in schools. We need to,
And they have access to his
Professor, you
writings.
remember when they had Columbus Day and you used to get that day off?
yeah. I'm gonna find that goddamn scholarship. This motherfucker really let some of his men um they created a Columbus let a platoon of his men, about 30 men, stay looking for gold, and he gave them permission to goddamn they went around from village to village stealing children that they kept as sex slaves.
Yep, they sure did.
And we reading about this motherfucker in school.
Yeah, I don't know. And I know that they have access to that paperwork. I don't know why they insist. I mean, their point of view is that he discovered new land for us to exploit, so he's our hero. Now, what do you think the people that got exploited think about him? Because they're looking at from their point of view, he found new land for us to exploit, and now we control the Western Hemisphere and now we're ruling the world, so why wouldn't they think he was great? But from our vantage point, It's not so great.
Yeah, that's true. Check this shit out. According to Dr. Howard Zinn, quote, because of Columbus's exaggerated report and promises, stop right there. The motherfucker was a liar. He was a goddamn liar. If he wasn't lying to Queen Isabella and King Ferdinand, a lot of this shit wouldn't even happen. But because of his lies, quote, his second expedition was given 17 ships and more than 1,200 men. The aim was clear: slaves and gold. They went from island to island in the Caribbean, taking Indians as captives, excuse me. But the word spread of the Europeans' intent. They found more and more empty villages. People started running away from the motherfuckers. On Haiti, they found that sailors left behind at Fort Navidad, that's the platoon I was talking about, quote, had been killed in a battle with the Indians. After they roamed the island in gangs looking for gold, taking women and children as slaves for sex and labor. And we studying this motherfucker in schools? Black people, we done lost our mind letting these people teach our children this shit.
And the Native Americans are silent on it because they have ambitions to be white.
They
So
want to be white, yes.
they're not going to advocate for themselves. They're just going to their attitude is we just want a piece of the pie. We don't mind as long as you give us our reservation and we can go to Congress and ask for more things. That's all they want. They're not advocating loud enough. There's a fringe group talking about make it Indigenous Peoples Day, which is fine, which I'm not in opposition to. But they have not raised their voice loud enough against Columbus. They're hyper focused on people wearing, you know, Native American emblems on sports jerseys. That's their focus.
Yeah, yeah. And Wani, what you said was so powerful, from the Native Americans' lack of advocacy and their need to be white. They just want to cut it apart. It's powerful because, believe it or not, that ties in with the first part. What will Africa do when FBAs delineate? How it ties in is if you really look at history, like I said in the beginning, life is cyclical. That need to just go along to get along and just be a part of whiteness, whatever that's being sold to you as, that's what the goddamn Africans did when they were selling us. They just wanted to be a part of it. What?
But they don't understand how things work.
Nope.
The white man would never, ever ally with an African or a person of African descent. It's just not in them. I mean, it goes against every fiber of their being. But I don't believe Africans think that they don't understand racism at all. They think all they have to do is come over here and just have some white friends and don't push back, don't rebel against things, and they're going to have a sweet life. And again, we have a term, it's called Negro wake up call.
Yep.
We have a term for that, people that feel that that's going to be the case, but they've already shown it all over the internet. They've been talking about us and getting stabbed in the face by their white girlfriend, and it happens over and over and over and over again. So it's none of our business anymore. Let them do them. If they think they can achieve whiteness, I'd like to see them try.
Well, Wani, that goes back to effective advocacy because you said that Africans keep doing the same shit over and over again. Well, well, knowledge can change behavior, and our dear sister, Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, gave us effective advocacy as to explain why the European does that. It's more important to know why sometimes than how, because if you know the why behind the Europeans' behavior, the what why I'm talking about is, Wani, you were saying, the the Europeans never going to be friends with the African. Well, if the Africans would read Dr. Francis Cress Welsing's book, The ISIS Papers, they would understand that the European does not have a choice. The European can never be friends with the African because friendship leads to intimacy. And if that African and that European becomes friends and they start having children, the European will disappear. It's detrimental to the existence of the European to be friendly with the African. And if they knew that, they would treat the European with more respect. They don't even understand what the fuck they getting into. And that's why we must delineate. Because if we follow them, they're gonna lead us into the god. They're gonna lead us to the goddamn firing squad. Hey, my daddy used to say, what do you say? A hard head make a soft ass. And shit, that ain't our whooping FBAs. Let's let them have their whooping. But I digress.
I agree, and I have seen less and less support. When I look at the post, now people are criticizing them. They get kicked out of a country, and the whole comment section is, well, you shouldn't have been over there. You shouldn't have overstayed. Shouldn't have done that. It's not like it used to be 10 years ago. If you would have looked on the comment sections of any of these trials and tribulations that Africans have overseas, you would have seen a lot of Black Americans talking about, oh, they're just being racist, blah, 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 and making a stink about it until they stopped doing what they were doing. We're not doing that anymore. The last stinks that we made for Africans were when that Kenyan man was beating the African that was working at his restaurant. Turned out the Chinese man, sorry, the Chinese man that was beating the Kenyan man, he was illegally there and he had a restaurant. But the Kenyan government didn't care that he was hiring Kenyans and beating them, right? So we're up there making a stink, saying, "Oh my God, what is this man doing?" And that's kind of the whenever that video is, that's kind of the last time that we advocated, because at the end of the day, when that Kenyan man realized that the guy was going to get deported for having an illegal restaurant, and we brought attention to it because the government was trying to play it off the same way the Nigerian government tried to play off when Chinese people opened up a restaurant and didn't want Nigerians to go to the restaurant and said, you can get the food on the side, we don't want your stinking butts in the restaurant. So they did that in the middle of Nigeria. The Nigerian government didn't care, but we made a stink about it and we kicked our feet up. How dare you open up a Chinese restaurant in the middle of Nigeria and say Nigerians can't go? We made a fuss. And at that point, that Chinese man in Kenya got deported, and that restaurant had to either shut down or allow them to go in the restaurant. We're not making stinks like that anymore. We're just looking at them like, you were here and you did this to us. And so that's going to be the end of whatever they thought they were going to get from us. They're not getting it anymore, and I'm seeing it just online. And I don't see people writing articles. I don't see anyone saying anything about any of their issues.
Right, right. We've been fighting them battles for them, but we no more. Let's. Mm-mm. Well, my question is, how are we going to handle these? How are we going to advocate for ourselves when you got people, these Pan Africanists, going over there speaking on our behalf? Do we need to openly, in open venue, make the public know that these Pan Africanists are not speaking on our behalves?
Yes, we do.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because I remember just the other day, it was Sister One. You remember that day we was in Big A, DJ A space, and they was talking about why can't we be allies like the Pan African people, talking all that crazy shit, talking about FBAs need to be allies with.
With who?
I think it was that fool from where was he from? Some little African country, not Nigeria.
I think
Uh,
my trolls. Was that a troll?
I forgot what country he was from. Shit, where was he from? I think it was it Senegal or some shit like that.
Is that Arno?
Nah, it wasn't Arno. It was fuck. I'm trying to remember his name. Antonio, I think it was, and we was
Yeah,
just
some of them are just regular trolls. They just sit up and troll all day.
yeah talking
But
about we
yeah,
need to be allies so they can come help Senegal and shit. And we was all like, motherfucker, you got a African name. I mean, a Mexican name living in Africa. Ain't no African's name Antonio. Yeah, so I was just like, he talking about coming in having FBAs be allies with people in Senegal, and I was like, no, we are done helping you, ashy people. You know, we got lotion and shea butter and running water. We good over here. Y'all done had y'all chance to be allies. And I land on that.
Speaking of had a chance, is Dr. Umar still in Ghana or is he back in the States?
Oh,
He
he
back in
over
the
there
States.
talking crazy.
Oh wow.
I see. You
Wait,
seen
I
that?
thought he was back in the States.
Yeah, I
He
thought he
he
was talking about that video. He was over there raising his fist on the motherfucking stage, looking like a damn fool.
Mm-mm.
now he complaining about Umar. Now he complaining about who's the owner of this app? What's the name? What's the guy? Elon Musk.
Elon.
Elon.
And he's complaining about them taking advantage of African babies now. Now
Oh
that's now
Lord.
he's on that. Yeah.
Yeah, he don't speak for us.
Yeah, we got to let that be known full first and foremost.
I don't know who that dude speak for, but he don't speak for us. We're gonna get a couple speakers and we're gonna this was gonna be a short space tonight. Let's see, Tyrone, what's on your mind?
Yo, what's up, Professor? Hey, Wani, what's up, Nikki?
What's up, brother?
To answer the question, what will Africa do when FBA delineate fade away with they flip flops? Cause we out here delineating for our own selves. Like we're on an effort to be prosperous, to beat this 2053 situation where Black American wealth is going to be disappearing. They say, but we're delineating now, and we're on a stronger approach. And they don't have a chance unless it's like the country Niger, like how they fought against the French, or maybe like South Africa, wherever Julia Lima is trying to do, taking no disrespect from Elon Musk. But that attitude is just not going to happen if they keep fleeing over here. So the more we delineate, the more they're going to be laid out to not move any further. And what is effective advocacy? Do you mean like for Africans or for us?
For us.
No, just for us.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, delineating. Yeah, it's just simple. Delineating by far is the number one thing to do. It's the only thing to do. Everybody delineate. And I just want to say one thing. We as FBAs, we're secure people on this land. Everybody else is insecure because they know they will get taken off this land.
Facts.
So you know what I mean? So shout out to the home team. Much love, y'all.
Yeah, I went to a funeral and my one of my family members lives in Camp Hill, Alabama. That's about 35 minutes away from Auburn. It's in the middle of nowhere. And I was in Camp Hill and saw from Alabama Historical Society a big like a historical marker that talked about the creeks, which were really was the Negroes by the creek. The white man named this group of air quote Indians, but it was just like it basically said, I got a picture of it. It basically said that Andrew Jackson declared war on the Aboriginals of America, our great 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 grandparent, and just it said the white people just kicked them off their land and took their shit. So I mean, like the brother said, we have a right, we have a legal stake in this land. We are the only non-immigrants here. I did some scholarship. I have another book coming out shortly. And I did some real heavy scholarship and found out that Wani's been saying it forever, that the red Native American is not. He's a visitor. The Dr. Reich calls it he calls them Anzic one. That's their bloodline, their DNA profile, Anzic one. They from fucking Siberia. Like they're Asian people. They're not from here. Like we're the only people that are from here. And I think that's one of the reasons why we're attacked so hard.
Wani has a whole diagram to prove how that is too. I don't know if she has access to it right now, but she has this whole diagram where she was showing me. It's crazy.
Yeah,
I would
Juan
love to see it.
Juan is the one that told me about it. I thought my dumb ass thinking that they were here the whole time. But no, they came over on that Bering Strait, that land bridge. They were chasing food. That's how they ended up over here.
Yeah, they still have the remnants of the language, but now this is something I just recently learned. Guess who was on the move too, along
Oh,
with human beings? Monkeys.
really?
Monkeys brought their little butts over to Japan, and then they live up there in the cold part and they look snowy and hot and there's hot springs. But that's beside the point. The point is you can look at the way that monkeys traveled Of course, they're older than Homo sapiens, but monkeys did a lot of traveling, and other animals brought themselves out of places into new places. And that's how we can also track the movements of human beings and whether they could have come across certain land bridges that are no longer present, because a lot of land is under the water, like Sundaland. The Sunda Shelf is under the water, and that was a big piece of land that the Negritos lived on, and they lived on this, and it was part of Southeast Asia and parts of India. But
I
this,
wonder, Wani, you told me about Sunderland the other day. I was wondering, was Sunderland another word for Mu or Lemuria? You know, Atlantis and
um,
Lemuria.
no, it's a real place.
Wow.
It's not a mythical place.
Okay.
This is a real piece of land that the waters rose, and it sunk. So now these areas are different. But when these people made their migration 40 and 50,000 years ago, they didn't have all these problems. They could just walk over there. And that's what a lot of monkeys did. A lot of monkeys walked places, other animals walked places. And so human beings look at what animals do. And they said, oh, those buffalo are walking over there. There must be some good fixins over there. And that's why they
Facts.
came over here. That's the only reason. Because human beings followed animals. That's they followed animals. They in fact, dolphins help people now when they're lost at sea. Dolphins have always helped people in boats get to land. Animals have always been flying toward islands and leading people. So this is how human beings made a lot of moves on this earth. And it looks like, well, how did they get over there? Because we can't see it. And well, because there were land bridges that are not present now, but we can see them under the water. We can a lot of them we know they did exist because we can see them.
Yeah. Speaking of animals, back to Columbus's old line, evil ass. When Columbus was on the boat, check this shit out. Columbus had a reward. That he said the first man to see land and call it out gets 10,000 maravedis for life, like money. A yearly pension of 10,000 basically dollars for life. Check this out. According to Dr. Howard Zinn, um, they saw flocks of birds. That was Columbus and his men when they were on the boat. These were signs of land. Then on October 12th, a sailor named Rodrigo, probably a black man, saw early in the morning the moon shining on white sands and cried out, "Land!" It was the island in the Bahamas, the Caribbean Sea. The first man to sight land was supposed to get a yearly pension of 10,000 maravedis for life, but Rodrigo never got it. Columbus claimed he had seen the light the evening before and he got the reward.
Damn, he's no good. Damn. What the
A
that's
straight
horrible.
criminal,
He
corrupted.
just demoted him. He's like, I see land. No, I see land. That's a cold cat, boy.
Whew, that's a cold piece of work he pulled.
And we
Go ahead,
celebrating
B.
Columbus Day.
Oh
No,
my
I
God,
don't.
this is so enjoyable. I
Well,
am
Oh,
loving this space
indoctrination
today.
is a motherfucker. Once you learn who you are and you realize what you've been taught, man, your eyes get to open into some weird stuff.
yeah,
Mm-mm.
I'm not even. I never celebrated Columbus Day. Just what is it? You
I
get a
was
day off
young,
from
Sister
school?
Wani. I was young in elementary, didn't know what was going on in the world. So all I was happy was that I didn't have to go back to school to talk about
Right.
Christopher
That's
Columbus.
all. I
That's the
didn't
only
care
thing I
what
was
they were
happy
doing.
about.
They could
I
have been
didn't have to go
celebrating
back to
Hitler.
school to talk about somebody I didn't know nothing about. So I was happy.
Right. Me too. That's all I cared. We get a day off. Oh, happy
Right,
Hitler
right.
Day.
Well,
Happy
shit,
Hitler
thank
Day.
you,
I don't give a
Mr.
damn.
Murderer of the World. Thank
Let
you.
me out of here. Go ahead, B. Go ahead, BJ.
Hey, what's good with y'all? How y'all doing this good evening?
What's up, bro?
I can't complain. So mainly I speak on what I know in the demographics. I mean, I'm from LA. I'm from Los Angeles, and so over in LA, on the far kind of like west side, like a little bit before you get to Beverly Hills, like in between South Central and Beverly Hills, we have a town or the side of town that's called Little Africa, right? And so in this area specifically, and it's like almost parallel to where the Black American, where we at in South Central, but it's on the opposite side of kind of like I don't know if y'all are too familiar with LA, but it's like off of they call it Obama, but it used to be Rodeo Drive and like La Brea,
Okay.
right? And
Yeah.
so in that little area, it's Little Africa, and I point that out because they they seek out to like I think in San Bernardino County they have Little Africa too, but they seek out to disassociate themselves with the hood, right, or the quote unquote hood, and they have their own little community where they like to stay in or whatever the case may be. And so I can remember when we was in junior high and high school or whatever, and we used to go through some of those areas or whatever. And so a lot of they would act just how white folks would act when we would go to the other side in Beverly Hills. And I said all that to say now in 2025, you're starting to see a shift in the energy where Black Americans are no longer associating themselves with Africa, right? Because I'm a millennial, so I grew up in a time period where Black folks started to wear the little African crosses and different things like that. And then too, like right in the we have Leimert Park, which is like the last stronghold Black community in LA, right? And so a lot of them don't stay where we stay at, but they come over to Leimert Park to sell like their little African stuff and different things like that. And so I had a huge debate and conversation with one of the merchants that was selling stuff. So we talking, and so he was like, "Well, I don't understand, Black people and this and that in this country. We have so many opportunities and this and that." So it started to irritate me a lot, and so one of the things that I kind of was like got on him about, I'm like, "Bro, you talking bad about Black people, but yet you over here on our side of the town selling goods. Like, how come you not over there, where y'all at?" I said, matter of fact, how come you're not even in Africa, bro? You literally left your country to come to this country to talk about folks that actually built this country, you know what I mean, with their blood, sweat, and tears. And so I said I like to say a lot of them are really starting to panic because it's starting to be a real big shift where we no longer saying, okay, I'm going to accept y'all hate that y'all bring in too. Because I think one of the things that kind of we have to really pay attention to is most immigrants automatically come over to this country and think that they're going to be accepted into white supremacy, and even yes, Africans think that they could be accepted into white supremacy, so they try extra hard to disassociate themselves with us. And so it never really makes sense to me why we always held on to that. Oh, I'm African, I'm African, I'm African. And I'll say this as well. So I was dating, well, not dating. We went on one date. It was like a week and a half ago, maybe 2 weeks, 2 weekends ago. We went on a date, and I'm talking to this Black chick, and so she was just dating um, this East African dude, right? And so, in the midst of us, having small talk and conversation on why she's single, or whatever. So, I guess dude wanted, his family wanted him to marry a girl from his homeland. So he literally broke it off with her and got married to a chick that he really didn't know. So she couldn't understand that. But when we go to dinner, so she's like, "Oh yeah, you're African American." I'm like, "No, the fuck, I'm not. I'm Black." Right. So we get into this huge, like, this is the first date. So we get into this huge ass debate. And I'm like, yo, I can't relate to or connect to nothing with Africa. You know what I mean? My folks came from Louisiana and Texas, and they migrated out here in the 1940s to come to Los Angeles as well as up in the Bay Area. I have no association or none of that, but the thing is, a lot of Black Americans as well is still stuck on that Pan Africanism, and I think until they really start to peel back the layers and starts to see what's how they really feel about us and what's really going on, they'll understand that we not really African. And then furthermore, even if we was, which I don't hold to, I don't even fucking know if you was probably the one of the people that sold my ancestors into captivity. So if we gonna play that game, I'm not fucking with y'all. Period. I'll just land it there.
Thank you. That's good
Facts.
information to tell us. I appreciate all that information because I don't know a lot about what's happening on the ground because I don't run into Africans that much and I don't, I just don't hear enough stories and I rely on everybody's experiences to give me a feel of what's going on.
Yeah, nah. Only time they smiling in our face is when it's beneficial to them. And once they know that it's not beneficial to them and they can't benefit off the relationship of being friends or being cool with a person that's a Black American, you ain't shit to them. And that's just been my experience. I'm a community organizer. I organize Black folks. And my job is to organize Black folks across all different ethnicities, you know what I mean, and different backgrounds. And so when I'm organizing them and we're trying to like they only come in when it's beneficial for them. And a lot of times they don't even want to participate in the pursuit and the fight for freedom or let alone reparations. But when it benefits them for something, if we having a food giveaway or if it's something that they could benefit from right then in that moment, oh, they come through grinning. But the moment they can't benefit, they up in the wind. That's just been my personal experience with dealing with Africans. And I'm not just talking about Nigerians. I'm talking about Somalians. I'm talking about all the Africans because LA is like a melting pot with different types of Black people, and a lot of Africans, no matter what the culture is, they all move to Little Africa, and that's why we call it Little Africa because literally it's houses and apartment buildings where all of them stay at.
Righteous. Well, we're about to end the space. Ishmael have last words.
Was I here longer than Ishmael?
Who is I?
Marat.
Oh,
Oh, hey
oh, dang! I
now.
thought you spoke already.
Oh no.
Go ahead,
You
bro.
been
I
I
just
was
speaking
just
wanted to
waiting.
quiet the
clarify
whole
Little
time.
Africa.
Just
Yeah,
waiting
you were there
patiently.
so
Go
quiet.
ahead.
Sorry, this hand thing isn't working.
Yeah, I don't see hands, but go ahead, Maroc. You were. I thought you spoke. Go ahead.
I'm going to be quick. I just wanted to speak on two things. You did mention Dr. Cress Wilson about the whole genetics thing. Our genetics is, to white people is, yes, it's a double-edged sword. So yes, it is dangerous. It's an annihilator to one degree. To another degree, it's actually a savior because white people are naturally deleterious and they are a low genetic diversity population. And so when you're a low diversity genetic population, you have increased vulnerability, you have reduced adaptability, you're much more prone to inbreeding, depressions, and other harmful effects that comes with a lot of those defects, and lower resilience to stress. So it is both a savior and a annihilator at the same time. So it's kind of weird how to really treat us and go about us because on one hand, yeah, we annihilate them, but with them being so naturally deleterious and their body is naturally much more prone to these diseases. Um, us giving them high genetic diversity increases their survivability. Um, and that leads me a little bit to what I had DM'd you a little bit earlier. I've been in contact with a doctor named Dr. Kate Shaw. You did send me a DM about this space, so I did want to come and talk to you about it really quickly. Um, yes, she has a paper or two in the scholarly journals. I sent you one through ResearchGate. She is looking to possibly reintroduce and repetition for a We Charge Genocide. It was a UN 1951 petition that was submitted to them. Some people may know about it. Her approach now is to now approach it from a more um, psychopathy and more epigenetic standpoint. Um, and that is because, from her words, I'm trying to remember what she wanted to say specifically. Maybe we can get her in this space another time. But yes, there is a lot of epigenetic PTSD to a certain degree that keeps us much more prone. Um, and it basically is, to a certain degree, a soft genocide being committed to us, and that's what one of her papers was about as well. So she wants to expound upon that through those methods, and through those methods, she thinks that we could have a much more secure space to really protect ourselves as a status lineage or autochthonous lineage here in America that should and could be protected through the case in which we are trying to pretty much show forth to. So I believe, I mean, not believe, I already know you're a pretty smart guy. So I wanted to at least propose it to you and see what how you liked about it.
Yeah, I got the scholarly
I
article. I'm gonna read it over,
yeah.
and I'll be back in contact with you.
Yeah, I just messaged you about it too, so you can contact me as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Thanks, Nikki.
yeah, yeah. That's. I'll look it over, but yeah, that's more of a Nikki. She's the biology side of things, but talking about epigenetics, Harvard did a study years ago, maybe 20 years ago, where it's a bird in the Amazon that didn't have a natural. Well, it kept getting eaten, and it flew up top to the top of the trees in the Amazon and didn't have a natural predator for 10,000 years until a hawk or bird of prey flew and saw it and it acquired a predator. Well, before that bird of prey killed the young, birds of prey fly into the sun and attack out of the sun. When you look at the sun, you get blinded. It's actually brilliant as hell. How do you know that? But so before the chicks or baby birds get killed, it thing the sun gets dark, and they associate that with death. So Harvard scientists and grad students got some eggs out that nest and took them back to Cambridge, Massachusetts, and hatched them in a lab. And somebody put a light in front of the new hatchling and put a piece of paper in front of the light, making it dim. And the hatchlings freaked the fuck out like they're about to get attacked. So the question then becomes, how in the fuck did a bird know it was going to get attacked? It's never been to the Amazon. And the conclusion is you have genetic memory. And I think that's one of the reasons why we're acting the way we. People know this. They know this information, and they've been weaponizing and using it against us. But the time's up. All these little tricknology and our scholars, our advocates like Dr. Francis Cress Welsing. See, the truth is funny. All you need is one little bit of information, one little crack in that dam, just one crack, and water's gonna bust that motherfucking dam down. One little light coming on in the darkness, and all the cockroaches will scatter. So we've had scholars, we've had effective advocates like Dr. Francis Cress Welsing, Neely Fuller, Dick Gregory. Um, the list goes on into ad infinitum. I could keep going. Chancellor Williams, Professor James Small, he's still living. I mean, Dr. Shahrazad Ali, she's still living. We've had people put these little cracks in this dam, and water starting to squirt out. Ishmael, you have last words.
Yes, thank you so much, Professor. How are you doing today, my brother?
Doing well, bro.
Outstanding. And to Nikki and Dewan, I really appreciate y'all being up on here today, and I love you guys. Just so you know, let me kind of close up with the Black Reader history by Dr. Claude Anderson. Black Americans are totally unlike any other humans on this earth. They are a combination of cultures and uncommon experiences. Therefore, the group is special and exceptional. They have no personal connection to Africa, and not one country on the African continent ever sent a single vessel to this country to rescue any of the millions of blacks who were kidnapped, enslaved, killed, and psychologically crippled.
Preach.
Enslaved, enslaved blacks in America were decultured and forced to devise their own survival skills and attitudes. These enslaved persons and their offspring were stripped of everything and forced to adopt and survive under the most inhumane conditions for over 400 years. During that period of time, they developed and blended culture and emerged as Black Americans, no longer Africans. I land my plane there.
Bro, could you do me a favor and send that DM me that. Take a picture of that and DM it to me.
Yes, sir.
Uh,
Yes, sir.
and what was that from?
Thank you.
That was from a Black History Reader by Dr. Claude Anderson.
Dang, I got to get that book. That was beautiful.
Yeah. No, that's,
I got
yeah.
that one.
I don't have it. That's on my list now. Wow. Dope. Well, ladies and
I have it, but I don't remember reading it that well.
right, and
Shoot.
I never heard that one, but I believe it. That's what I've been saying the whole time is, and that's such a good point. Like, um, I'm from Alabama, and rape on a slave, on the slavery is interesting because I'm being facetious when I say interesting, but in certain places like Louisiana, enslaved blacks had rights to a certain extent if they got in certain situations. If a white boy was to get a black girl pregnant, he had to take care of the baby. But in Alabama and Mississippi, those two states, shit was wide. Georgia too, shit was wide the fuck open. Like we had this rape going on. Basically, black women and men were considered chattel. That's the legal word, and chattel means like a fucking chair. You can literally take a chair outside and start shooting at it, and you're not gonna get in trouble. So rape went on rampant in Alabama. My mom's side of the family's from Aniana, and they were raped. My big mama was raped, and my question is, where were these Africans when she was being raped on those killing fields of Aniana? You know what I'm saying? You don't get to not help me and then show up calling me brother when it's resources. Fuck that. You know what I'm saying? The goddamn plate is closed. Your seat at the table is no longer there, as far as I'm concerned. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I enjoyed y'all. If y'all look in the Jumbotron, you'll see Wani Spots and Nikki the God's Cash App. Show them love. If you want a copy of my book where I talk more about this lineage and psychological effects of slavery, put $25 on Our Story Publications and put your full address and full zip, and I'll send the book out to you in a couple days. If you already made a purchase, your book is on the way. I enjoyed y'all. I learned a lot, and hopefully I'll see y'all later on Tariq's show. Wani, you had any last comments?
Good night, everybody.
Nah,
Nikki,
love y'all.
love you too.